wants to master their emotions, master their finances, master their life, make good decisions, end up in good situations, etc., etc., etc. So, my goal, my job is to bring you people that I think are your real teachers, not the ones you had in school that taught you that, George Washington loved black people. I'm talking about the people who actually care about you, who are giving you the tools and skills to be successful in life. And so today's special guest, who I'm honored to speak with today, is Miss Felice Hightower Britt. And Felice Hightower Britt, I met Felice because she came to the All Black National Convention in Charlotte in 2022, and she hit it off really well with Alicia, and she is going to talk to us about some of these issues as well. So before I begin, I want to ask Miss Hightower Britt, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you, Dr. Boyce?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. Now, can you, for the sake of everyone here, tell us what's your background? What do you do? Stuff like that.
So, my early background is that I have a bachelor's in economics and I have a master's in counseling. I am a licensed clinical mental health counselor supervisor. I'm also a certified clinical trauma professional and I'm a certified life coach. So I have my private practice here in Charlotte, which is Resiliency Therapeutic Services. I'm also the Be Big coach, and I am co-founder of a nonprofit called States of Wellness Inc.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So therapy. And I saw the title. I love the title of your you're doing a training tomorrow in the Fly Newbie Money Club. And I let me tell me if I say it right, that there's trauma in your transactions. Did I say that
Correct.
right?
Your trauma is in your transactions.
Ooh, I think that's heavy. I love that. I love that. Okay. Tell me more.
So, everyone has experienced some form of trauma. Others, and it varies in degrees, right? And in order to know like how deep your trauma is, we have an assessment that we call ACEs, which is adverse childhood experiences, to see where you at. And what people don't recognize is that when you meet people or you see the choices that people make and how they behave, a lot of it stems from unresolved or unhealed trauma.
Hmm.
And so people don't even recognize too that there's a thing called financial trauma. And that comes from their early childhood experiences around what they perceived about money. And that's what this is going to show you is that, and that's the difference between me as a coach, is that as a licensed therapist, I have a hybrid approach. So I'm able to identify the root to people's issues that are keeping them stuck and then help them along the way. Because once you get healed, then we have to start coaching you to start achieving those goals that you have and that you have been wanting to do and get achieved, but couldn't, and you didn't know why.
Mm, interesting. Okay, so just speaking on that, yeah, I mean, financial trauma is something that I've always been concerned about, and I love, and I really think that it's a really important emerging body of conversation and research, that really needs to be dug into, because most people to this point, I don't think, are connecting trauma, undiagnosed, untreated trauma in the black community to the size and the growing scope of the racial wealth gap. Like, we're just sort of connecting it to the fact that, white people stole all our money, which they did. We know that. Or that we don't get equal pay for equal work and, things like that. But it goes deeper. It goes down into, do you have the emotional disposition that leads to wealth building in the first place, right? Because, for example, a lot of people like Nuri Muhammad, who came in here, and I love Nuri. He made a great point that if we were to receive reparations tomorrow, all that money would probably be gone in a couple of weeks. And, so can you speak to that in terms of just what you have found, in terms of just financial trauma and just the lack of acknowledgement of it? I mean, I almost wonder if people even feel like they might not need the help of someone like you because they say, well, I'm fine. I don't, like, almost like we don't want to admit that we might need therapy or some sort of healing or something like that. What's your experience on that?
So my mindset is that I've grown into and had to train myself into is that we're really not supposed to be struggling financially. We weren't
Mm,
created to struggle financially. So there's something deeper about why we have a lot of Black people who, though we spend, like you say all the time, trillions of dollars to keep the economy going, but yet we have no real wealth that we can pass down to our family. And it's deeper than, like you just said, it's deeper because if they were to give us the reparations, like you said, most Black Americans would blow it. And 9 times out of 10, it's due to their mindset around and their trauma around finances. So I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I grew up in the projects and I was sharing on Fly Nubian money that I remember when I knew we didn't have a lot of money. And it was always around Christmas time. And so I literally, as a young person, hated Christmas because I
mm,
knew that my mother wasn't able to provide and give us lavish gifts. And I would get outside with all my friends and realize that I don't know how their parents were doing it because we was all in the hood, but they would have gifts and stuff. And so I had a mindset that I developed around Christmas, around money. And
mm,
I had my first job when I was 14. And something clicked when I got that first paycheck. Something told me that if I got up every morning and went somewhere and showed up, I could make a dollar. And then,
mm,
from being from New York, we always know you can make a dollar. And so I've always had that mindset. You can always make money. And so it grew from there. But I also recognized my issues around finances. Boyce, I would hold money so tight.
mm,
Like, and if I went shopping, even for things that I need, I always had 1,000 thoughts running through my head. Like, okay, what disciple am I going to rob today? And what bank account can I move this money over to here? Like I could never relax around money and
mm.
I would hold it tight. And I'm a saver because of it. So I only like to I'm serious. I love to save, but I only like to see my money go up. I don't like to see it go down, right? And so, but you get those feelings of anxiety, right? Even when I was paying bills and you see your bank account going down, that would do something to the inside of me. And it came from my relationship and my perception of money from my past and the
Mm,
trauma that was around it because poverty is trauma.
mm. Yeah.
We're not, it is. It's a lack of resources. And what does that do? Because we have to get our basic needs met. And if
Mm,
you can't get your basic needs met and you know that that's tied to having money, that's traumatic.
yeah.
And so the narratives that we form around that trauma and our perceptions of money and what it was like growing up with or without it, that shapes us and the decisions and choices we make as we evolve and get older.
Mm. Well, what's interesting, Felice, is I feel like the trauma conversation is so deep. I don't know if Alicia told you that we actually created a Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School. And we're proud of it because I've never seen it happen anywhere else. And she's actually doing research on the connection between trauma and financial outcomes and things like that. And a lot of people in here helped her to get the data that she needed. So she's going to put it in a peer-reviewed journal. And we were stunned that no one had ever really studied this. But really, well, I would almost dare say that if we healed even 20% of the trauma in the community, you would see Black wealth go up by a couple trillion dollars. Because one of the things I'm thinking
Absolutely.
about too, Felice, I'd like to get your thoughts on this, is you mentioned financial trauma, and I dare say that it's not even just financial trauma that can mess up your money. It's just any type of trauma, period. Because from what I know, and I am not, my wife got a trauma certification. So I'm speaking literally as a person I just take it all in just through whatever happens when you sleeping next to somebody and they talk to you a lot. Like I'm just absorbing all this, right? But my argument would be that in the way it affects your brain and your physical and mental health, it then leads to pain, discomfort, whatever, which can also cause like trauma responses, right? Like if I'm a heavily traumatized person, we have a disagreement. I flip out and go crazy because I don't know how to calm myself down and handle things in an appropriate way, or I break up with you, or I want to fight you, or I just, and you see it all over the internet. That's all you see. In case y'all wondering, like whenever you see black folks acting crazy on the internet, just look, it's trauma. That's what it is, right? And so my thought is that it isn't even just the financial trauma that is the culprit. I think it's all the trauma, right? Because you're living in pain and discomfort, you're having trauma responses. So when you have the trauma response to the pain, you need something that's going to soothe you. So that might be drugs, alcohol, sex. Sex is like a drug, the dopamine and all that. And then you get into spending money. Money is a drug, right? So what do you think about my theory? I think it's all the trauma that like you got to heal it all if you want to really get your money right, or because if you don't, you'll be spending like a traumatized person. And traumatized people don't hold on to their money very long. What are your thoughts on that?
I, I, I think you're nailing it. And then you think about African Americans, right? How, we're in last place in all these different spaces. But you think about it's apples to oranges because our history
Hmm.
is very different from other people's history. We have centuries of ridiculous trauma that has been passed down century after century after century. So,
Yes.
can you imagine the generational trauma that has been passed down to where we are currently? Our trauma is ridiculous and it shows
Mhm.
up in so many fashions. It shows up in Black women's health. It shows up in Black women's ability to reproduce, reproductive history. All of that trauma is just it's so monumental in the way that we are probably stuck in so many different ways. And if we don't get healed of that trauma, even on a basic level, we're probably not going to achieve the goals that we need to achieve like yesterday. Because right now, Black people need to get on it like never before. And I don't know how that's really going to happen if we don't start getting healed from our trauma.
Mm. Well, doesn't the trauma also, tell me if I'm right about this, doesn't it also increase like your fight or flight response where your cortisol and all is hyped up, so you're kind of in this almost instinctual survival mode, like you're living in the jungle, trying to survive and fight off wild animals, which inhibits, I would imagine, your ability to do many of the things that are required for wealth building, like long-term planning, right? I mean, how can you plan long term financially when you're trying to get enough money to survive till Tuesday, right?
Right.
So it seems to me that being able to heal from that, and at the very least, and here's the other thing too that's interesting to me is, sometimes that stress comes from very real challenges and real issues, but then what can also happen is that it seems to me that if you are too stuck in that state, that even when you get a chance for everything to be cool and calm and collected, you don't, that's not comfortable, right? That is not something that works. Maybe it's boring, or like, for example, like in dating, you ever see those people that they really don't like good relationships, right? They if they get in a relationship where the person treats them well, they're like, wait, we ain't got nothing to fight about, and it almost seems like that can also be almost like a type of addiction. Like we enjoy the discomfort. We're so accustomed to it, or maybe we attach that, like, because I'm a black man, I got to always be on 10, right? And so when you put me in a space where it's like, no, everything's fine, no one's gonna hurt you, and everything's cool. I'm like, well, wait, something's got to be wrong. So let me sabotage my situation so that I can get back to the state that I'm most comfortable in. What are your thoughts on that?
So what you're describing is familiar spirits, right?
Mm,
So we and the older we get, the more we go to what we know is familiar.
mm,
So it's deeper than even discomfort. It's familiar. I know, and I'm familiar with discomfort, and I know what it can do for me. I know and can expect the same outcome from my trauma or from, and so that, and it becomes familiar. Now, I don't know what healing looks like. I don't know what healthy looks like. And so because
Mm,
I don't know, I'm going to draw on what's familiar, even
mm,
though I have the opportunity to do something different that will change my life and my trajectory. And so you have to be really careful that we start training our children out the gate how to cope, how to handle stress, how to self-regulate. Teach them when they're young so it becomes a part of who they are, and they're able to do all these things and make better choices for themselves instead of just going towards what's comfortable and what's familiar. Because and I don't really have a problem with discomfort if you have some skills, some coping skills to handle the discomfort, because discomfort is not a bad thing. Discomfort brings about creativity, imagination, innovation. I
mm,
get scared for people when they get too comfortable. And I
mm,
believe that right now we might be a generation that, the respite's been too long. And
mm,
so we're too comfortable. And so now what you're seeing is that this little bit of discomfort that's been introduced back to us is causing people to galvanize. It's causing people to start thinking outside the box. It's causing people to get a little bit more resourceful. So I'm all right with a little bit of discomfort. What it
mm.
is that it's those familiar spirits that we got to kind of attack and rebuke.
That's such a good point, and I'm glad you made that distinction because, um, like getting out of your comfort zone is actually what tends to lead to growth. And so if you're too comfortable all the time, so maybe comfort is the wrong word, but I think that just one of the things that therapy really helped me with was understanding just little basic tools you can use to calm down because I'm heavily traumatized. I took the ACEs test. I was way up on the scale. I didn't even, yeah, I didn't even know I was abused as a kid until I got like 50 years old. I just thought that I just had a tough father, and but also on the other side of that, I credited my tough experience to making me a tough person, but I didn't emulate the parenting approach that my father had, right? Because he did what he knew, right? And I'm like, okay, I know a little bit better. I read a few more books, so let me just, sort of elevate that a little bit, right? But I love my dad. I have a lot of respect for him doing his best because believe me, I mean, he was actually on heroin when he was 19 when he went to
Mhm.
Vietnam. So the fact that he walked away from heroin and chose to raise a family, and I wasn't even his biological son, is something I
Mhm.
admire, because a lot of men would not do that. And so with that said, though, just the therapy and just reading things helped me to understand like, okay, everything is not a catastrophe, right? Sometimes you have to talk it out, figure it out, and or woosah, take a breath, step away, just like so literally I have this laundry list of things that I try to do so that I don't do what I would normally want to do, which is to make a snap reaction,
Mhm.
right? Because when you have assets you're trying to protect, like your family or your relationship, or your business relationship with someone, you have to be delicate with that. And sometimes if I think trauma can cause you to be a bull in the china shop. You get angry, right now, for example, I really look at Donald Trump and I wonder about like how much commitment he's made to like these sorts of things because this man is just like rah, and he's screwing up the whole global economy in the process. He's made some money now. He's got real money. I think that he should get credit for that. But at the same time, it's not a good example in terms of how to intelligently, just emotional intelligence. I think that would be a good term. What would you, so tell me, Felice, and I want to mention your name too, Felice Hightower Britt. Felice is our guest today. I want everybody to know that. And she is did you say you were a therapist or you have a master's degree in?
No, I'm a licensed clinical therapist.
Okay,
Yes.
she's a licensed clinical therapist, and we're talking about trauma in your transactions. So, Felice, what do you think about that just in terms of, that basic toolkit that we can all get to kind of learn how to not mess things up. Because I know that sometimes not having emotional intelligence, I pursued it because it was very costly to not be emotionally intelligent. And I don't think that emotional intelligence is really advocated for in our society. I just don't. What do you think?
Well, I know that it's in the corporate sector, a lot of emotional intelligence is going on there, but not in the everyday lives of, average humans and Americans. And it all starts with self-awareness. Like that's key. And I believe that we are people who are just on autopilot. People are just
Mm,
literally on autopilot, going through their lives, not taking time to just step away
mm,
and to get still. So you can start the process of being self-aware. If you're not self-aware, then you don't know you even need tools. You don't even know you need
mm,
skills in order to be able to self-regulate your emotions. And so most people, you'll be surprised, Dr. Boyce, most people lack self-awareness. And I
mm,
hear this all the time. I don't know. I don't know. Now we're in the age of technology where you can literally say, Alexa,
mm,
where's my refrigerator? I'm being silly, but seriously. And for us to be in the technological age that we're in, and to have people always telling you they don't know, and what they don't know is themselves. And that is huge. You can't start learning tips and trips if you're not self-aware enough to say, hey, let me get aside and let me just be still and start figuring out who I am. Who
mm,
am I? And what does it mean to be me? And what do I want? What do I
yeah.
really want for myself? And so
Wow.
I believe it starts there.
Hmm. I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think that well, like when you kind of know yourself, you're able to just know what's for you and what's not for you, and you're not as likely to follow the crowd. A lot of people, they want things because everyone else wants it. you know, and that's how you get tricked into like buying luxury items and stuff like that. Like we get, we got these $200 bags that are made in China that we're buying for $1,000 because somebody told us that that bag is something that everybody wants. And I'm not knocking anybody that has fancy bags. I'm just saying that, make sure you get it because that's something that you truly want. And I think a lot of times we trick ourselves. We were like, no, I want it because I want it. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we thought about, or even when we choose our relationships, sometimes people will pick a person because they're thinking about what others are going to think about what they're doing. And then also with spending, a lot of people spend money to impress other people. You don't even like the thing that you bought, but you got it because you get to drive that thing down the street, or people are going to see you wearing that outfit, or they're gonna think about you in a certain way, and all that need for validation is, I think, is very expensive to buy your validation. Right? It's very expensive to buy your self-esteem. And by the way, I want everybody to know that Miss Hightower Britt is doing a presentation tomorrow morning on this topic, and you can talk to her and go back and forth and ask questions and do the training. It's called Trauma in Your Transactions. It's going to be tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern in the Fly Nubian Money Club. Or sorry, is it 10 a.m.
11,
11
11.
Eastern? Sorry. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. 11 Eastern, the Fly Nubian Money Club. So anybody who wants to join can go to flynubianmoneyclub.com. That's where a bunch of smart women get together, and they have the Level Up Lounge, and they do that on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And so you can join by going to flynubianmoneyclub.com. Somebody type that in the chat, flynubianmoneyclub.com. And if you want to join, you can. I want to read some stats to you about Black women in particular, and I'd like to get your thoughts on some of this. Number one, 74% of Black women are the primary breadwinners in their household, but only 23% feel confident in long-term financial planning. This is according to Prudential. Number two, Black women carry more student loan debt than white women, 20% more, which adds to financial stress. A lot of Black wealth disappears because of student loans. So one of the side effects of Black women being the most educated in society is the student loans are kind of crazy. They're extremely high. Three, nearly 60% of Black women report living paycheck to paycheck, even when they have full-time employment. That's according to Essence and Nielsen. And also, only 14% of Black women feel financially secure, despite the fact that they've increased their earning power and business ownership rates. So think about this. So Black women are getting the most education. They're starting businesses. They're getting great jobs. Their incomes are going up. But despite all these variables, only 14% of them feel financially secure, which means that we still have to bridge that gap between income and wealth and financial security. What are your thoughts?
It's so true. All of those statistics are so true. We are the most educated. We are ones taking out all those crazy loans. And it's for, and I have my opinions about that. I believe a lot of that is, and y'all give me some grace, a lot of our Black women are single.
Mm,
And so as single Black women who are waiting on their kings,
mm,
While they waiting, they're like, well, what else I got to do? So let me go and get this master's. While they still waiting, let me go and get this doctorate, right? So it's
Mm,
like, and their family situation is taking longer and longer. And
mm,
then yes, they're having these salaries, but they're doing it by themselves.
mm,
Whereas our white counterpart, ladies, they got men cutting them checks all day long, right? And so they're able to prolong their educations. They're able to invest their money a little differently because people marrying them. And so what we don't understand is that family is so key. Brothers, you have got to come back for us.
mm,
You
mm,
have got to, in order for us to build real wealth, we have got to build family. And
mm,
Black women, a lot of Black women are out here doing this thing by themselves. And we all know that more numbers, when you've got somebody who's helping you partner, your numbers will increase. You'll be able to save. I have a good friend who, out the gate, she married a really good man. And one of the things he said, he was like, babe, when you get your job, I want you to take your money and you invest it while I take care of all the bills. They're millionaires now
mm,
because they married, they created a plan, and they did it together.
mm,
Huge. And so we need more of that. And we and don't get me wrong, Black women are great. We're magical, but we also want to have families too. And we want to be able to do it a lot younger. And no, we don't feel secure, right? Because anything can happen. Like we're living in a world right now, we're on a dime. Your life can change that quick
mhm,
on a dime. And so all that we've saved up, what does that really mean? Especially when we're doing it alone or by ourselves. And we have children that we're looking out for and making sure that they're good. So our money, right, is being spread out in so many ways. Men, you have got to come back for us because Black women put their money back into community. And so it's huge. And so I believe
mm,
that a lot of those reasons is about, the lack of our men coming back for us.
mm. Wow, Felice, you opened up such a an important hornet's nest when you brought that up. I was like, "Ooh, buddy, she done went down that rabbit hole." Um, because I can tell you, I agree with you 100%. Um, every study that I've ever seen says that communities that have families do better when it comes to building wealth. That's undisputable. That's just the truth. And it's just like making the argument that a basketball team with five players does better than a basketball team with two players. Right? It's that simple. So here's where it's really fascinating to me because I pay very close attention to the conversation. I thought deeply about this stuff because I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking years ago, and I wrote it because of the right approach. I think bashing on women is not masculine at all. I think you can make your point without being mean to women. I just don't like that at all. I think and I felt like he was mean. I think when you say you're gonna die alone or you're over 35, nobody wants you. Why do you gotta say that? You don't have to say that. That's not very nice, right? But it's the internet. The internet's built off entertainment, and people like to see black people being mean to each other. We enjoy that. That's like those balloon popping shows where people will literally pick a partner in 20 seconds and pop a balloon and hurt their feelings and be
Right.
disrespectful to each other. People like that. People like it when black people are just nasty to each other. That's
Mhm.
bad culture. Um, then on the other side of that, the reason I still don't have any friends is because I turn the other direction and I look at a society that pretty much just consistently seems to say black men are the problem. That black men won't do this. Black men won't step up. Black men da da da. Black men that y'all ain't protecting black women. And I hear all that 100%, but then sometimes I'll see young, smart black women who have options and they'll go pick some guy where I'm like, why would you want to date this guy? Like, for example, you have the Disney princesses, two of them, two black Disney princesses, both of them got pregnant with rappers. So you're a Disney princess. You could have had the pick of the litter. You had a million men that would have dated you and been a father to that baby, and you chose rappers to have babies with. So as a guy who I did not, my goal was not to get up and break the law. I had uncles and stuff in prison. I didn't want to be in prison. My daddy went to prison. So I followed the law. I educated myself and all this other stuff. And I got tired in my 20s of being called square and lame because I'm planning for a future. Right? I appreciate my wife because I didn't meet my wife in the club. I met her in the
Mhm.
library and she wasn't she would get hit on by NFL players, NBA players, all that. But she wanted to be with a smart man. And so I was like, that makes you a smart woman. I appreciate that. But here's where it gets even deeper. The reason she was attracted to me as a professor was because her father was a professor.
Right.
Right. So there's a connection, right? My mother was a social worker. My wife's a social worker. These things are connected, right? So to me, this whole family problem it's deep, it's intergenerational, it's reciprocal, meaning that men and women, we're both playing a role in harming each other, right? So for example, when you see these black, I call them bearded babies, these black men that never want to grow up. Well, a lot of those men were raised by a mama who feels like their baby can do no wrong. So your baby's out here splattering his seed everywhere. Had got baby's mamas all up and down the block, and you're making excuses for him because nobody ever forced him to be a man. And maybe it's because you didn't think he needed a man to teach him how to be a man. I believe deeply that boys only become men if they're around other men. There's a
Mhm.
training manual on manhood that I got from my father. Again, as toxic as he was, my father was the epitome of toxic masculinity in certain ways. He didn't beat my mother, nothing like that. But I'm talking about he's killed people. He'll cuss you out in a minute. He wasn't politically correct, but he taught me how to be tough. He taught me how to be
Right.
devoted. So when I married my wife and my brother married his wife, we did that because we saw a model where the man of the house said, if you want to be a man, you are responsible for something and someone. You take those are your kids. That's your woman. You protect that, you defend that, you provide for that. And that was what led me to do what I do. If I did not have that, you know what I would say? I'd be like, and I hear guys say it, I'd be like, relationships are hard. They're stressful. I have a bunch of money in the bank. I could go I could go date a lot. I could just date around and have fun and ain't got nobody nagging me about cleaning, washing dishes, none of that. Right. I could end up falling into that camp. And I know men that fall into that. So I think that here's two things I'm gonna lay out because 'cause I could keep talking all day. One, I'll just save it for another conversation because we gotta get together and really go deep on this. I think that two things come to mind. One, if we want to really truly accelerate who we are and succeed in life, and I'm talking to every individual here, I'm not talking to the whole black community because the whole black community ain't gonna listen to none of this. Because I might be wrong, who knows? Uh, I believe that you should study the things that you want out of life. Like if you want to have a husband, go study how to go study how to be a wife. You study for your master's degree, you study for your bachelor's degree, you study how to become an accountant. But did you study how to talk to a man, how to be a good spouse, how to be the man that women will choose? Or are you so scared of people calling you a pick me that you run around as this strong woman who don't need no man? Well, guess what? If my wife had run around with that persona, like we really don't need you around here, you know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna be like, okay, bet. Have a good life. I'll be down the street, right? It's men want to be needed, right? And I don't think that that really comes up. But then also I think at the same time, we know boys need to be trained. They're not being trained up, and I'm not blaming it on women. We know about the baby daddies and all that other stuff. That's highly inappropriate. Like we have so much inappropriate behavior that I believe anybody who wants to construct a family needs to get as much training to do that as you got to as much training to do that as you spent learning how to start a business. There are guys that spend time learning how to play football and basketball. They spend time learning how to get a degree in something. You should study how to run a family. I read books on how to be a husband. I read books on how to be a father. I read books on blended families. I read books on women so I can understand how to understand I study my wife because it's confusing if you don't. And people are out here winging it and they're doing it wrong and they're messing their lives up. I'm done talking. Thank you for letting me rant. See,
Oh
that's
no,
my trauma coming out right there, probably. Go ahead.
no, and thank you. But you said a lot, right? And it all starts at the beginning, and it starts with as we're children. Because by the time you're 7, you're pretty much going to be who you're going to be, right? Well, what did I see between
Mm.
1 to 7? What did I see? What was I exposed to between those ages? Who was modeling any of those things you're telling me, right? And so my father, he suffered with mental illness,
Mm.
and he left our family when I was around, maybe I can't, I don't know, between 7 or 9, and he, he would physically abuse my mom, and he was a New York City police officer, um, and he was no joke. And I remember when he left,
Mm.
and I became my mother's right hand man. My mother raised the heck out of me, but I did not see what it was like to engage with a man. I did
Mm.
not see what it was like to be soft. I couldn't afford to be soft in the hood. I had to get my brothers home safely. I had to make sure that I didn't let nobody in the house. I had to take my latch key out and make sure we got in and closed the door and shut it and bolted it. I had to make sure that I was there for my mom so that she could work those jobs. So all I saw was responsibility, accountability. I had to get good grades. So I saw how to go to school. I saw how to be educated, but I didn't know how to be good to a man outside of taking care of them. Now I knew how to take care of them because I had to take care of my brothers, and I knew how to boss them. I knew how to. God was bossy. I knew how to do that, but I didn't know how to engage and have a relationship with the man. And what did I choose? I chose someone who I felt kind of had that edge, like I thought my dad did, not
Mm.
knowing that that's not really what I wanted. It wasn't until I got older that I realized that what I wanted wasn't really what I wanted. It was what I had been trained to believe
Mm.
was a man and what was modeled for me. And so now my husband is completely different
Mm.
from what I had thought and believed that I wanted. And so now I try to teach young girls, you do want the smart boy. You do want the boy who's in school and wants to read and wants to do something with his life. That is fly because he's going to be financially secure, and ain't nothing fly about poverty. And so you do want that smart guy. You do want the kind guy, right? And then what I heard you say too, Boyce, is that your mother did get married. And even though your father was, a real macho man, he was there. And so you saw some sort of modeling between a man and a woman, how you talk to a man,
Yes.
how you let a man have peace. Because one of the things that we don't understand as Black women, that men love peace.
Yes.
And we don't know how to give that to them, right? Because the bill ain't paid and the lights getting ready to go out and you not working. And so, we're nagging. And
Mm.
then we don't know how to be soft.
Mm.
We're so tough because everybody requires us to
Mhm.
be a superwoman to
Mm.
the point where we've swallowed the pill and believe that we're superwomen. So
Mm.
nobody comes to our rescue.
Wow.
But we need rescuing just like everybody else. We want somebody to take out the garbage.
Mm.
We want somebody to mow our lawns. We
Mhm.
want somebody to lead. But we don't even teach our sons how to lead because it's really not our space to do that. And so, one of my things is I'm always saying we got to go back, y'all. When
Mm.
we figured some stuff out,
Yes.
we got to go back. We got to go back and we got to start having these things and these conversations. We got to start telling our girls how to be soft,
Mm.
how to be, and not necessarily need it, but how to let a man know that we do need them.
Yes.
I do need you.
Mhm. Yes.
And not only do I need you, I want to need you. I'm to tell you the truth. I don't want to mow a lawn. When I was single, I hated mowing that lawn. I'm not lying. And I did everything I could to make sure I could pay to have somebody do it. So I need my man to mow the lawn. I got a good man today, and he mow our lawn. And I'm so appreciative of him that he came and he allowed me to be a girl. I just want to be a girl. And I didn't know how to do that for so many years. And so I always tell our people that the grace that is required for both our men and our women, we both need grace. And what does that mean? That means that we have to step back for a minute and realize that what we're seeing, that's trauma. What we're seeing is survival. What we're seeing is I don't want to get hurt. And
Yes.
so grace is an underlying understanding that what you're showing me is not really who you are. And
Mm,
so I got to give you some space to be able to get to a point where we can get in a groove and a rhythm where we can say, baby, I know that's not what you're really trying to show me, but I'm still here.
mm.
Because I know when we get past this, I got a ride or die that's going to be with me till the wheels fall off. And
Yeah.
that's what we got in one another. When you got a good brother, you got a ride or die. When you got a good sister, you got a ride or die. If you just stay long enough with the grace, so
Yes.
we can get through some stuff to get to the other side.
I love the use of the word grace. I think that's a great term because I hear so many people that just have these easy cutoff switches. You know, if you do this, if you mess up here, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. Like, and it's again, I almost feel like that's trauma, right? That fear, like because I'm not gonna let bad things happen to me, the minute I see anything that even seems like a red flag, it's over, you're done. And one thing I did see with my parents over 51 years of marriage was they gave each other tremendous amounts of grace. I don't, I like, so if my mother had been, let's say, a really extreme intolerant feminist, they would have divorced in the 70s. They would, I wouldn't have had no daddy. And my father, as much as he was a macho man in the world, he had a softness when it came to my mother. I watched him go from being the toughest guy to dealing with my mother in a way where it's like, okay, I got to talk to her a certain way. I got to make sure that I deal with her in a way that's different from everyone else. So she had a type of authority that wasn't masculine authority, but I saw
Mm,
him submit to that regularly. So my model in my head was for marriage was, oh, you submit to your wife. You might not like being nagged, or you might not, or she might react to something in a certain way. But you really think carefully before you speak to the queen, in a particular way, because there's a consequence for that. And the biggest consequence is losing something that you've invested heavily into, losing a very powerful asset called your family. And so I would say this, Felice, I'm gonna throw out a suggestion for everybody in here that could be implemented. I believe that anybody, especially those who didn't get a chance to see a good model of family growing up, and even those who did, I think that before you commit to somebody in a relationship, you should take a class on
mm,
how to have a healthy marriage. Right? A lot of people get excited about getting married, but they don't spend a lot of time learning how to stay married.
yep.
Why are you going to do it if you're going to divorce in 3 years and lose all your money and go through all this stress? I mean, divorce is stressful. It's painful, right? I think anybody that has kids should really, take a class from people they respect on how to properly raise children so that you can just maximize it. Because here's the thing, if it's a family is an asset that's like any other asset. Just because you have an asset, that does not mean that it's going to be a productive asset. Like, just I could give you a factory, and if you don't know how to run the machines in the factory, then you'll lose more than you gain by owning that factory. But if I train you on how to run the factory, then it can make you into a multimillionaire. So family to me it's a factory of love and prosperity. It's a factory of possibility. It's a factory of black excellence and success. But you got to learn how to run the dang thing. And a lot of people are out here just winging it. And it really bothers me that we will spend more time learning how to go work for the white man than we will
Mm,
spend learning how to manage a black family. And that was something I did not figure out until I was in my 40s because I too was caught up in the hype and the nonsense. But when I'm dead and gone and my life is over, my boss, I don't have a single boss anywhere that I've ever worked for who's gonna give a damn that I'm dying that day, right? But my wife will, and the kids will, because and then the people that I poured into will, right? So everybody reassess that. Think about these things. So Felice, I could talk to you all day. I've really this is so much. Can y'all like give her like some props digitally for like the knowledge that she's dropping? Like this is a smart black woman, and this is the thing. We have great women in our community that are doing amazing things, and I really think we should consciously and proactively go out of our way to show support. These are our teachers. These are the people that love us, and nobody's been more committed to the black community than the black woman. And this has been true since slavery. So we got to make sure especially the guys in here, I want you to really step up and do that. Like, you're powerful, you're men, your presence, your support means something, right? So show that love. So Felice, before we finish up, can you talk about what you're going to discuss tomorrow in your presentation in the Fly Newbie Money Club and how that's going to go down?
Absolutely. So your trauma is in your transactions. We're going to talk about trauma. We're going to talk about financial trauma. We're going to talk about the signs of trauma. I'm also going to help you identify your triggers. What are those triggers? And then I'm going to give you some language, right? Because you can't articulate what you can't identify what you can't articulate. So I'm going to share like how to articulate real emotion, right? Besides sad, glad, mad, and happy. And then I'm going to show you and tell you how trauma shows up, what it looks like in our lives, tangible ways that you could be like, oh my gosh, you mean I was doing that? That's it. And then I want everybody to bring their journal, their paper, or their phone and a pen, because I want to engage with you and I want you to start doing some real hands-on work. Because before you leave that workshop, you are going to at least come out more self-aware. I also have an assessment that I'm going to have everybody, a money mindset assessment, so you can see where you are with your money mindset. And then I have a free resource that I'm going to share with anybody. And then I'm going to show you how you can rewrite and rewire your brain to have a mindset of abundance instead of scarcity. And so those are the things that we're going to do in that workshop.
Okay, so for everybody that wants to join Felice tomorrow, Saturday, April 19th, you can do a free trial at flynubianmoneyclub.com. Somebody type that in the chat. It's flynubianmoneyclub.com. And as you know, they bring in amazing women like Felice regularly, and everything's recorded, everything's inside there. So Tierra Williams runs that whole space. And so you can log in, and not only can you hear from Felice, but you can hear from all the other experts in a multitude of areas. And all the teachers in the Fly Newbie Money Club are women. And that was something that I think allows us to acknowledge and respect the smart women in our community. And I think that that's a way we can take the lead on society by really utilizing all the talent that's in our community. It ain't just in the men. We got to really be smart about that. So flynubianmoneyclub.com. Somebody type that in. You can do the free trial. Once you do the free trial, you can come into the event tomorrow, and everything will be recorded and everything else. Last question, Felice. What is your Instagram?
So my Instagram is b.big.coach. And I'm also the Big Coach on Facebook. And that's how you can find me. And my website, www.thebebigcoach.com. Be Big is an acronym for boundless, empowered, audacious, intuitive, and grandiose. So I'm the Be Big Coach because that is our birthright. All of those things we should be showing up and walking in.
All right, all right. So I'm gonna be big. Just call me Biggie, baby, baby. All right, anyway, so thank you so much, Felice, for your time. It was amazing to have you here. And also a reminder to everybody, tonight at 11, we're doing our financial slumber party. We do that once a month. And so if you want to join us for tonight's financial slumber party, feel free to go to financialslumberparty.com. And I'll also send out a link for everybody here that wants to join. And I don't know if you know about the financial slumber party, Felice, but you're invited to come anytime you want. What we
Okay.
do is we get together on a private Zoom and we have fun and play music and stuff like that, but we also learn a financial lesson. So today's training is going to be on financial security, the secrets to financial security. Like, because a lot of people don't even know what it looks like. They know what insecurity feels like, but if you say, well, what does it mean to be financially secure? people may not necessarily know, right? So that's what we're going to do the training on tonight. So if you go to financialslumberparty.com, you can join us there as well. So thank you everybody for coming in this morning, and thank you again, Felice. We got to have you back. She's coming back. Whether she hopefully she'll agree to it, so we don't have to go kidnapping. I'm playing. But she's also a friend of my wife's, and I'm excited because I just really, as I was listening to you talk and the knowledge you were dropping, I just really want everybody to know we have everything we need. We got so many smart people in our community, Felice. We don't need to go give other people all our wealth to train us on things. They're going to teach us the wrong stuff anyway. We want people that understand our experience, right? They can talk about what it was like to my daddy left when I was little, and here's how I overcame that. And by the way, my father was a cop too, and so yeah, cops are unique. Let's just say that.
Mhm.
Thank you for your service for the good officers, but Lord, all y'all need therapy, but they don't want it. They never want it, but they need it the most. So anyway, God bless you, everybody. Have a great day, and thank you again for listening.